call for you to weary men, but will you weary my God also? Therefore the Lord himself shall give you a sign. Behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel. Butter and honey shall he eat, that he may know to refuse the evil.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to Line by Line Bible Studies. Continuing the book of Colossians, chapter 3. And I was thinking about it. I think we covered the end of chapter 2 pretty well. The idea there is that legalism, and not just legalism writ large, like the concept, because you can be legalistic in a whole bunch of ways, but the law of Moses is no longer what we look to establish righteousness. And therefore, because the thing is about the ordinances and the things that because people often get upset if I'll talk about the commandments being abolished, as Paul said, including things like the Ten Commandments, because they think it means lawlessness. And in chapter 3 we'll see it definitely doesn't mean lawlessness. But when you have these rules about what you wear, what you eat, it's very easy to get caught up in the minutia and detail of that, of the carnal observation of things, the outward observation of things. Most people aren't murderers, and so you're not really worried about murdering, stealing. When it comes to the Ten Commandments, the reason the Sabbath comes up is because it's one that's likely to be broken. Because it's it's a very outward observant thing. Most people aren't outright thieves. Most people aren't adult. I don't. Even though most marriages end in divorce, I'd like to think that doesn't mean that most marriages have adultery in them. But still, it's easy. Those things, at least are wrong. Yeah, it's universally understood to be wrong. But like things like, don't eat pork and wear fringes on the edge of your garments and a tassel, and also and all these other little details. It's very easy to get caught up in a sense of self-righteousness because you do all these outward things. You have this feeling of holiness, and let's say it can be conducive to a holier than thou attitude. Now in chapter 3, if ye then be risen with Christ, seek those things which are above, where Christ sitteth on the right hand of God. Set your affection on things above, not on things on the earth. For ye are dead, and your life is hid with Christ in God. When Christ, who is our life, shall appear, then shall ye also appear with him in glory. That's Christ in you, the hope of glory. Mortify therefore your members which are upon the earth, fornication, uncleanness, inordinate affection, evil concupiscence, and covetousness, which is idolatry. For which things' sake the wrath of God cometh on the children of disobedience, in the which ye also walked sometime when ye lived in them. But now ye have put off all these: anger, wrath, malice, blasphemy, filthy communication out of your mouth. Lie not one to another, seeing that ye have put off the old man with his deeds, and have put on the new man, which is renewed in knowledge after the image of him that created him. Where there is neither Greek nor Jew, circumcision nor uncircumcision, barbarian, Scythian, bond nor free, but Christ is all, and in all. So remember, I said you were buried with him in baptism, and also raised with him. And he puts it in the past tense because Of course, there's an aspect of the resurrection which we are yet waiting for. But there's also an aspect which is supposed to have already happened. We put our faith in Christ, and it activates so many things that are part of our destiny in God, including our final destiny, which is to be raised from the dead. I mean, that's not the final, but that's pretty late in the game. The resurrection of the dead. So the idea is he is risen, and we are risen with him and set down with him, at least, I don't want to use the word in theory, though it's true in theory, but it's more than that. Because in the reckoning of God, it's not just a theory, it's already an accomplished feat. The work is done. So Christ sits on the right hand of God. It says, seek things which are above. And because you're dead, and your life is hid with Christ in God. It's interesting that we are alive and dead at the same time. There's this, we're dead, we're alive. There's a certain sense in which we are to be dead. There's a certain sense in which we are to be alive. Now, I when he talks about setting, well, let's just I want to continue through these, and we're not abandoning verses 1 and 2 just yet. Obviously, Christ sitting on the right hand of God, that's meaning the position of favor and of inheritance and of, approval. He sits at the right hand of God. You sit at my right hand, So set your affection on things above, not on the earth. We'll talk more about that. For you are dead, and your life is hid with Christ in God. Your life is hid. I mean, what your life truly is. You know what I mean? It's hid with Christ. In the sense of hidden, I think of it, it's like the idea of security. You know what I mean? It's like our real life is with Christ in God. And it's hidden. It's not obvious to an observer what that life is, really. Because it's not just walking in newness of life, because oftentimes people, like Paul even says, and people will ask you of the reason of the hope that lies in you. Well, they may, because there's something sometimes about it being a Christian that people see and know. But I think this idea of hid, I'm going to look it up real quick, just if there's anything interesting with the language there, because I do think it means hid in the sense of security. At least I want it to be that, because the idea of my life being hidden away in like a secret is not exactly what I think. It just doesn't ring as true to me. And I mean, not that it's untrue. I just mean it's like it doesn't seem as true as the other. Because there is a sense, it's hidden. But this idea of hiding, I think, is more in a sense of security. Let's see. What's wrong? I got the wrong window up. There we go. It's not obvious to you. All right, now. All right, sorry. There we go. And we have the text up here. Set your affection on things above, not on things of the earth, for you are dead and hid. Crypto means to hide. So, nothing specific from the language. But the sense of it being, I probably just don't need to make too much of it, is what it is. Because it's like sometimes that Paul says something like that, and, and his meaning may be just a very subtle thing. Like I said, it's like it's hid with Christ. It's kept safe. The idea of safety is, I think, more of what the idea of hiding means. Because it's not like we're supposed to put our light under a basket, or it's not something we need to worry ourselves about like, how can I hide my life? No, it's with him. But, and here's what I would say also is like, the glory. I mean, like, in this life, you live your life. And, to the world, it can seem boring. I got married young, had a bunch of kids, just lived my life pretty quietly. Before that happened, when I was in high school and stuff, I didn't know exactly what I was going to do, but I had a notion of big important things in the world. I was in a rock band, and people even told me they thought I would do big things. I'd be in a rock band or something, or I'd be president. Someone told me that once, which was very flattering. I guess just because I was unusual, right? At least among my peers, right? So, it's not obvious, but if you look at, what I'm saying is that I had like I had some notion of like what a big, exciting life looked like. You know what I mean? And we all kind of understand, like, there are people in the world who live large and they do big things and they have, a lot of times it's very immoral. And they do a lot of things that are evil and wicked, maybe more wicked than evil. I think there's a lot more wickedness than evil, to tell you the truth. But anyways, so they live a wicked life, a sinful life, a riotous life. You know what I mean? A loud life. And for some people, they look at that and say, that's living, man. I want to go out and live like the rock stars and the Hollywood celebrities. I want to have that loud, riotous life that's full of glory. These people, they call them celebrities because they're celebrated. Their faces on the covers of magazines, their images on television, their live. People want to know, what are they doing? It's so exciting. My life, it's not exciting, but it's incredibly exciting. It's incredibly fruitful. It's loaded with glory. You know what I mean? When he appears, I'm going to appear with him in glory. And it's not going to be like it's something, like I said, it's not a sudden change. It's just a sudden revelation. You will appear. You'll be glorified with him. Because my quiet life, it looks quiet from the outside. But the true nature of the thing is hid with God. I mean, the glory, that for sure is hid. The glory of the Christian life is mostly hid away. There is some glory the saints get at, after they're dead sometimes, but that's not it's not glory in the earth by being venerated and made statues out of is not the same as standing with Christ on the day of his return in glory. And that's the glory that is our life, that we look to the day when we shall stand with Christ and be received and appear with him in glory. And so then it says, mortify your members which are upon the earth. Now remember, he says, set your affection on things above, not on things in the earth. And what does he mean by things on the earth? Well, this is what he means. Fornication, uncleanness, inordinate affection, evil concupiscence, and covetousness, which is idolatry. For which things' sake the wrath of God cometh on the children of disobedience. So there are things, the earthly things, fornication, uncleanness. That's what earthly things are. That's the things you set your heart on. You set your affections on things above, not on things like fornication, uncleanness. If you think about it, that's the glory of celebrity culture and all that. And the riches, obviously. He doesn't say riches. He doesn't say riches. But there's a certain implication of it. Well, covetousness. There you go. Covetousness. He does say riches, because that's all that's about. Could be. It's that and more, right? Covetousness covers a multitude of sins. So, when it talks about setting our heart on things of heaven, it's not just like, because it can be almost a useless piece of advice if you don't understand it. Because it's like, you go, heaven, the clouds and the buffet tables, and I'm being facetious. The boxes of donuts stacked to the sky, and I don't care for donuts or sweets really, but as a kid I did, I'm just kind of, I just feel like I'm gonna be like it's gonna make me feel bad. So that's not what I mean by set your affection on things that are above. Like, I can't wait to get to heaven. That's not really what he means. I don't think so. What he means is like, it's like, I want you to think about high things. Well, don't be high-minded, but what are the things of heaven? I think what Jesus said, like on the Sermon on the Mount, the values he lays out, and and what like, for example, when he talked about what the odds are. Oh, yeah. I should have had some. I keep forgetting to grab a banana or something. Setting your heart on things above is setting your heart on things that are heavenly, like virtues. Certain things come from above. The righteousness of God, the knowledge of God. Even though I'm on earth looking at a Bible, and the Bible is made out of paper, and it's made out, it's a thing of the earth in a sense. You know what I mean? But no, it's not. It's a thing of heaven. You know what I'm saying? So don't think too literally when he talks about set your things on earth and heaven, because then you get confused. Because, like, what do I know about heaven? What do I know about heaven? Well, I know we know quite a bit, actually. It's like it's a place where righteousness dwells, where there's no sin. You know what I mean? It's not about like, there are these like couches and chaise lounges with really soft cushions on them, and you can just sit on them all day. And the floor is like white marble that looks like glass with like fire underneath. It's I mean, like, it's like getting into things you have not seen. It's angels dancing on the head of a pin. It's actually not very useful to think about heaven that way. And I've had people tell me, like, they'll look at me doing political stuff and they say, our kingdom isn't of this world. What are you doing? Why are you doing that? Why, don't you, I mean, I'm not I have no delusions about my reputation. Meaning, I was about to say, don't you know, your reputation is as a Bible teacher. It's like, what I mean by delusions is like, I know that it's like this reputation is a very minor thing. I mean, it's like, even, there's not a lot, it's not like it's like some, I'm not, even in the least bit famous, So it's not like, I don't know, but there are people who listen, of course, and they say, aren't you, giving a bad influence by talking about politics and stuff, right? But it's not in my mind minding earthly things, because, I think standing up for what's right is always something that's a heavenly thing. Yeah, I mean, that's heavenly. In heaven, in the kingdom of heaven, people will stand up for what's right. You know what I mean? In the kingdom of heaven, you know what I mean? We want to set our hearts on the things of God's kingdom. It's right. And also, we're going to reign with Christ. And one of the things that Christianity teaches, like through the parable of the talents, is this idea of responsibility. It's like we're given gifts, and we're expected to, while he's gone, to make use of them. And to bring him more, And in some respects, as far as I'm concerned, it's like if it can lead to people like, doing, if the message is right, it's right. And, he has this, because he's looking at sin in terms of, he's looking at earthly things, mostly in terms of sin. And that is really the perspective, because it's not about the grass and because it's like, when the kingdom of God comes here, it's the things of heaven on earth. There's nothing wrong with the earth, the physical earth. It's not like he's saying, like, there's something wrong with, the actual just stuff of earth. Now, you can set your heart on it too much, like there is a point at which you go too far. Like, you can be too attached to earthly things and things that are not sinful, perhaps, but the attachment becomes like a sin. We can, I can have too much, too much of my life could be caught up in maybe my home or something like that, I don't know. I'm trying to think of other things that are not sinful, but, because it's like, I'm only saying you can go too far. But I hesitate about all that, because it's like, then you're like, well, what's too far? How far is too far? You know what I mean? And I think that's a matter of conscience. You have to, like, examine yourself. As like, when it starts becoming, sometimes in a good thing, we can be like, let's say you're so focused on something earthly, and it's creating a lot of frustration, or it's leading to sin, and that may be a sign that there's some problem with what you're focused on. But obviously, people must provide for themselves in some degree. It's like, so paying attention to those things, taking care of your family and stuff, is not a minding earthly things versus minding heavenly things. It's being responsible for what you've been given, and taking responsibility for it, taking care of it. I'm going to have a drink here. My mouth's all dry. So, for these are the things for which things' sake the wrath of God cometh on the children of disobedience. There are children of disobedience. Oh, wait a second. I can't go there yet. We got to talk about what these words mean, don't we? This is a Bible study, not just a commentary. Okay, so we talked about life being hid. And I think that makes sense, because the hiding here is juxtapositioned with the glory. Glory which cannot be hid. Mortify means put to death, therefore your members which are upon the earth. Meaning, you are dead. You have parts, members, that are on the earth. And what parts are those? Well, there's parts like fornication, uncleanness. I think akatharsia is uncleanness, probably. I'm just guessing. That means, unclean or unholy. The name Catherine. Well, let's see first if it's actually there. In order to affection. Okay, uncleanness. Yeah, akatharsia. Yeah. I didn't look it up ahead of time. It's just one of those words I know pretty much from... Oop, wrong screen. Okay. Catharsia. I'm just going to stay on this mode because... Have I been here the whole time? Did I forget to go back again? Or did I just switch? I don't know. I'm so incompetent at this sometimes. It's not funny. Alright. So... Fornication... it's the word Greek porneia, and people say, "Oh, pornography." We know pornography is wrong. It's not, but it doesn't mean pornography. It means porneia, which is the thing that is being portrayed in pornography, and it means sex outside of marriage, but not just sex outside of marriage. I've told people I've always made it clear, it's like I think if a young couple is engaged, or if you go on to be married, it's not, and they have common law marriage and all that. But fornication is I look at fornication more as, not more, but it is, sex outside of marriage is a fine definition, but it does imply a sort of like, that's your way of doing things. Like that it is, well, let's look it up. Let's see what the definition says. I'm not trying to make excuses for it. Yeah, fornication, whoredom, and idolatry, metaphorical. It's a metaphor for idolatry. Pornea, harlotry, including adultery and incest. So it means something strong. Like we would say sex out of marriage, but you say harlotry, you get a little more different sense of like what it means. And surely sex out of marriage can be a form of harlotry, especially if you go out to some bar and pick somebody up and go home with them and have sex. That's fornication. It's not the proper use of that. And there's a lot of other sins that go along with sex, right? In fact, concupiscence, the English word is interesting. Evil concupiscence. Evil is kakos epithumia. It means desire, passionate longing. And it says evil passionate longing because passionate longing in and of itself is not wrong. But it means desire, passionate longing, lust. It's used for different things like inordinate desire, a longing, especially for that which is forbidden. The English word concupiscence is obviously one we don't use very often, but the Cupid, I think, is related to the word Cupid, I think. I remember looking into this. Oops, wrong. Go back. Concupiscence. All right. Evil longings. Just to throw it in there because it's not just actual fornication. It is concupiscence. And then covetousness, which is idolatry. Again, covetousness is pleonexia in Greek. And I'm just using the quick definition off there. Pleonexia, which means advantage. Let's remember that this word means advantage. Or here it says, from pleonectus, avarice by implication, fraudulency, extortion. It's interesting they call it advantage here, as far as that's the definition in the... Because if you look at it, the word pleonexia, a feminine noun derived from pleon, numerically more, and exos, to have. To have more. And that sort of means like to take an advantage or to gain an advantage, I guess. It's not really, it seems like an odd way to take that word, advantage, but I do think we use, if they mean that in the sense of in English, the way we would say like take advantage of someone. The implication. All right. For which things sake the wrath of God cometh on the children of disobedience. It's for the sake of the sins of men that the wrath of God comes. And that's, I've said that before, that one of the amazing things in Christ is that, other people are going to perish for the sins that I've been forgiven of. And, if you don't understand how you can never repay that debt, there's nothing, I can't, nothing that can be done. There's lots that can be done. There was a song I remember we used to sing in church. It says, all that I can do is thank him. All that I can do is thank him. Don't remember the rest of the words. But it was basically saying, when I think about all the stuff that Jesus did for me, I can't repay it. There's nothing I can do. All I can do is thank him. It was like, well, you can do a lot more than that. You know what I mean? But it's not a question of to repay, but there's more you can do than thank him. You could it's like I commit my life to him. I will be his servant forever. But that doesn't pay for it. And it's not an attempt to pay for it. It's a response, just like the thanking. And I know that the song means what it's saying is like, look, I can never repay this debt. It's the thanks is about, and the truth is, but all that we do doesn't amount to much more than thanks, because God gives us everything. But a thankful heart is appreciated because it's appropriate. It's right. Like when people say, "Oh, why should I worship God?" Because it's right. It's what should be done. It's the appropriate thing. It's like, why wouldn't you worship God? He's made everything. I understand when people don't believe in God. Why would you worship something you don't believe in? That's a good question, because people do it all the time. Nevertheless, if you do believe in God, why wouldn't you? It seems weird, but people out there actually question that. Like, why does God need worship? It's like, God doesn't need your worship. You need to worship, to fulfill propriety. The children of disobedience. It defines that, that we are the children of light. The children of the kingdom. But there are other children. And this is a hint at destiny and predestination and stuff like that, because ultimately, just like the tares, the the wheat is the children of the kingdom, and the tares are the children of the wicked one, the children of the devil. Now, some people think the children of the devil thing is like this literal thing, that Satan actually came down to earth and sired a race of men. I don't believe that. It doesn't make any sense. It could make sense in some convoluted way of thinking. But, cause they always want to lay it at the feet. It's always the Jews. It's always the Jews. They're the children of the devil. And doubtless, because, you got to remember the Bible was written, and it's entirely focused on Jewish stuff. So all the bad, most of the bad people, not all, but like a lot of the bad people in the Bible are Jews, because it was about Jews. And so are the good people. I don't understand how they cross that. It's like, the good people, they're all different. They were all, so they have this nation, and there's a nation within the nation, and they're what? When did true Israel take a hike? Just at the captivities? Not even into the time of Jesus? They had already infiltrated in what? Anyways, I'm not going to get into that silly question, because it is a silly question. It's a spiritual thing. The children of disobedience are not the literal children of the of the metaphysical concept of disobedience. The children of there's the children of light, the children of disobedience, the children whose lives are characterized by disobedience to God, and who continue in it to the very end. And you walked some time when you lived in them. Paul's mindset is, this is all the past. Now it's not true of everybody. Some people aren't Christians yet, right? But it's like some people in their walk, they've struggled with things or whatever. But I don't know. Well, obviously we have to put these things to death. Paul does not like to acknowledge that. Like, he does not like to build up sin even a little bit. He's always saying, you're dead to it. You used to do that. There is a little acknowledgement from time to time. Thank God, because if he didn't acknowledge the fact that a brother could be overtaken in a fault or some such thing, if he didn't acknowledge that, it would be really hard to reconcile ourselves to what we want to see happening, because we put our faith in Christ. And we want to see righteousness blossoming. We want to see the life, which is heaven, which is the righteous life, coming to full, blossom. I said it twice. To full bloom. Not blossom. We want to blossom and bloom, in the which you walked some time when you lived in them. But now you also put off all these: anger, wrath, malice, blasphemy, filthy communication out of your mouth. I guess I gotta address that one. And I was talking to my wife. I'm like, yeah, well, like I did that song and had a little bit of profanity in it, didn't it? The BS pandemic. Now, I wouldn't consider that the concept of BS to be filthy communication, even though it has a word in it that is profane. But the word means a kind of communication. It's referring to a kind of communication that has a very it has a particular kind of relationship to the truth. It's different than like a lie. I actually studied this because there was a book about the concept of BS. And I'm not going to wantonly sit up here and say it. I've said it all the times in those songs. I don't think I have to say it over here. Everyone knows what BS means. But, it's not just lies. It's stuff where people don't even care what the truth is. Where it's just like, I'm just going to BS here. I want to say the word, but whatever. Anyways, I don't want to get into the definition of BS so much as I don't think that it's per se that. You know what I mean? But filthy communication is more, it could be profane speech. I wonder if it's filthy communication is one word or two or what. Let's take a look at this. It would certainly seem to be the sort of thing that would include things like profanity. But here it says, I thought of profane, and there is a word profane in Greek. Profane is actually, I think, a Latin term. But there is a word for profane. This is iskros and logos, vile communication. What's iskros? It's funny, the original definition was abusive language. It says base or disgraceful, shameful. Let's see. Shameful, that is base, especially venal, filthy. See, and that puts it in a different light. That could be, it's not necessarily the use, because this is what I would say. I've always maintained words can be used properly. Even words that are generally considered profane. But obviously, I don't want to be a profane person like that Esau. So we want to watch our language. People won't want to listen to you. They hear you, using foul language. But it says specifically venal. It's the kind of filthy communication like, I'm having trouble. I know exactly what I want to say, but I don't know exactly how to say it. But like, people will make, I remember, when I used to work with guys, some guys like to talk about sexual stuff. Wouldn't I love to, they'll make comments about women, they'll make comments about their sexual prowess or desires. And, it gets pretty venal sometimes with guys. Certain guys, I remember training with a guy and, oh man, it's like all he wanted to talk about, it was like we'd go do a delivery and it was like, oh, her breasts, and like we'd go do that. And it's like, oh, this chick and, all this stuff. He would just talk and about the Hollywood celebrities he was in love with. And this is years ago, but it's like, that's definitely when I think about filthy communication. I think about something, or like I remember working with another guy who was telling me how he cheated on his wife and with a prostitute, and he had her number in the wallet, and when she found it, and he told me how he got, how he deftly escaped detection, and pretty filthy communication. It's more than just someone like hitting their thumb with a hammer and saying F. you know, we need to watch our language. I certainly do. I want to. Like I said, I don't regret at all that song, the BS Pandemic, not at all, because it's like I don't think that's filthy communication at all. I wouldn't qualify it that way at all. There is something sort of base about the idea of crap, but the point is to talk about things being base and being a bunch of crap. Even just saying crap. I mean, isn't that filthy communication? Oh no, that's acceptable. You just can't say shit, because that's the bad one. Well, no. In terms of words, they're the same thing. That's why it's like I said, if someone hits their thumb with a hammer and says F, that's not the same as saying, oh, I'd like to F her. I mean, that's a filthy communication. Venal. That's filthy. But hitting your thumb with a hammer and saying the F word isn't really. Though I don't advise, it's a bad habit to get into. But it's not the same as some, because I've known plenty of guys, I'd like to go F her, and they talk like that. And like they just are filled with this, I guess they let their internal dialogue or monologue play as they, or something, I don't know. But that's definitely the way I would characterize the idea of filthy communication here. It's not just the use of words that are base, because, like I said, there's no difference between crap and the more forbidden one, the one I'm not going to say twice. And why am I not saying it twice? Whatever, because I just don't want to fill my study with swears and stuff. Plus, if you do a lot of it, the algorithm detects it and all that. And then they'll slap an age gate on. Not that I care. I'd gladly put an age gate on everything. You got to be 18 to listen to my Bible study. Sorry. That's fine. But, if I say urinate, the Bible has the word piss in it, so I don't feel like that's a bad word. I got in trouble for saying piss when I was like 7. I was like, Mom, I'm going to go take a piss. And she was like, and because it definitely lands kind of heavy, doesn't it? It lands a bit heavy. But it's just an English prejudice. It's like where we say, okay, that's the bad one. But why is that bad and the other one not? They're talking about the same thing. Is it saying I should never say, when the funny thing is we try to avoid talking about these subjects all the time. Why is my thing going berserk? I'm just having this, like, my computer is like going in my ears. All right, stopped. So good. I thought I was done over there. Didn't I bring it? I think I brought it back and then okay. Anger, wrath, two different things. Put it in there differently. And I suppose anger, I don't know if the Greek word's going to have much of help. I guess I'll go back to that. Sometimes it's helpful, like, okay, what's it mean? What do they say it means? It's not always the same. All right, where we wrath of God is orge. And see, it's different. See, that's an interesting thing. Okay. Here's interesting. See, when it says the wrath of God, that's anger. Same word. Wrath, anger here. Orge. Orge, impulse, wrath. Impulse is a good one there because I think properly a desire as reaching forth or excitement of the mind. By analogy, a violent passion, ire, or justifiable abhorrence, by implication, punishment. Anger, indignation, vengeance, wrath. Those are the ways it's translated after the this dash here. All this is how it's translated in the King James when you get to the Strong's definition here. And I always know that because it's the format that it's in the book. That's the one. That's the one that says the wrath of God, and then anger. This is the word wrath. It's thumos, which is going to be like, I believe it means heat or something at the base of it. From thuo, passion as if breathing hard. Oh, it's breath, not heat. And it's translated fierceness, indignation, wrath. So it's on the one we have what, desire, and the other one we have heavy breathing. That's what, that's the kind of what we're getting behind that. And so that's why there's two kinds. Because it's not the same thing necessarily. It's a different kind of passion, different kind of anger. And again, like I've always, I don't know, I always hate saying I've always said, because I'm sure I've said things otherwise in the past. So, but I felt for a while, and I was recently saying a feeling that I've had for some time, or an assessment I've had for some time. It's not exactly a feeling, but like if I get tempted to anger and feel within myself anger, but I do not act out on it, I consider that a temptation successfully managed. You know what I mean? That's successfully managed. If I don't allow that to run me, if I feel it, because it's almost impossible not to feel your feelings. You know what I mean? I don't know how to get past that. That's a miracle and a half, as far as I'm concerned. To stop, and I don't see any scriptural evidence that we shouldn't feel. It says, so who being past feeling, is not a positive thing. It talks about men having their consciences seared with a hot iron, cauterized. That's the kind of thing that means you can't feel anymore. There's nothing in the scripture I see that we should not feel. You look at Jesus at Gethsemane. He had feelings, strong ones. So feelings are not sin, per se. I mean, obviously, like anything, you can go, they're not automatically sin. You know what I mean? Just the same thing like if a man were to observe a beautiful woman and feel attracted to her, there is an internal sinfulness. Like, meaning I could feel the temptation to lust. That's not wrong. But if I dwell on it even mentally, it can quickly become sin. Very quickly. So, because there's a sort of acting on it in the mind, we're giving our hearts over to certain evil feelings. Same thing with anger too. It's like I'm not saying that like as long as you hold it in, it's fine. It's not about just holding it in. It's about feeling it and then not going on from the feeling to something else, like holding on to it. That might even be get into malice, you know what I mean? Because I don't want to hold on to the bad feelings. I don't want to act on them or indulge them either, even internally. I don't want to indulge in the anger and just feel angry. You know what I mean? I want to manage it. I want to not act out on it. And also I want to allow it to subside. I want to allow it to go away. Just like like I said, if someone observed an attractive female or male, I guess, women aren't the same. Men are very visually stimulated. They see an attractive woman, they find there's a temptation immediately. There's nothing else has to happen. It's a temptation. Maybe not a very strong one. It's like, but for some people, very strong. I mean, some people are just very lusty. It's like, but it's like not always the strong one. But it's like it's a temptation. Well, you manage it. You after you just stop. After you go on with your. You go on. You don't like you don't stand there staring at something tempting, because then you will lead yourself to sin. And also when you walk away, you don't dwell on it mentally. You just move on. You know what I mean? We want to move on from these things. We want to, I would love to just be totally unaffected by all those things. By anger, I want to just be I'd like to be a statue when things that are anger-inducing come. I just want to be an unfeeling, like, I don't want to feel that feeling. I hate being angry. I hate being frustrated. I hate those feelings deeply. But sometimes you ought to be angry. You know what I mean? Sometimes we ought to be angry. At least in an intellectual sense. In a sense of that, angry in the sense of like this, like not giving way to passionate anger, but giving way to, well, when you see something bad, you know, right? And instead of becoming irrational and angry and giving way to emotion, you instead rationally address the thing that's causing the anger. Because you can act on the stimuli. You know what I mean? There's a stimulation to be angry. You receive it, squash it, don't allow it to run you, even though you feel it, but you don't allow anger to move you to do foolish things. You know, maybe lash out or, I don't want to, I've talked to my wife about the idea of sharing feelings. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you have feelings and you feel like you want people around you to understand how you feel. And it's fine, just tell them. But sometimes I think human beings try to share their feelings by getting other people to feel the same. Like I feel angry, so now I'm going to make everyone around me angry because I'm going to start lashing out at people. And that I've seen that. I got to sneeze. So we don't want to allow our feelings to run us. But there is the wrath of God. He has anger. Why have we put it away? Vengeance is mine. It's interesting that the Scripture specifically forbids things to us which God is allowed to do. And the reason is because, well, it could be just arbitrary, of course. But there's also this thing. One of the reasons why I stopped supporting the death penalty years ago, because I read books about innocent people being convicted and some of the real life stories. And I realized it's, the way we carry it out is terrifying. And perhaps it would be better to just lock people up. But I certainly believe in it if we could be certain of the person's guilt. But a lot of these cases, it's anything but. Too many. Let's put it. How many? Just too many. Putting innocent people to death is too many, as far as I'm concerned. So it's not the revenge on the wicked is not worth the horrible injustice you do when you kill someone who's innocent. Like if a wicked person is locked up and not able to live their life, that's punishment enough, and that's bad enough fate for someone who's innocent. At least there is some life in there, and they have hope, and they have their innocence, and they know it. And there's still a possibility of being cleared. Once you kill them, though, you find out, oops, they didn't do it. Yeah, so, if we were able to carry out justice, surely, then I would support such a thing, though I'm not I'm not anxious for anyone to be killed for their sins, lest we start a trend, So, anger, wrath, malice. I'm going to look up malice. I might as well stay over on this page. Anger, wrath, malice. Well, bring up malice. Why don't you bring up blasphemy? Well, I know what blasphemy is. It's going to be, it's going to say right here. Oh, yeah, blaspheme. Of course. Filthy communication. Okay. So we only really need to look. We don't need to look. Blasphemy is it's made of two words, and Let me drink. From blasphemos. Well, pheme means like to speak, and blas means like evil, basically. Evil speaking. Vilification, especially. Vilification, thanks. Oh, is that what blasphemy is? It's vilification. I just defined a word I don't understand with another one I don't understand. I mean, I do understand those words, but, you know what I mean? Big, complicated words. Well, that's fine. And this is, it's kakia. That's what malice is, kakia. Okay. It's too general. It's from kakos, badness. Kakos, you know. I think there's a form that even says kaka, which is like bad. Kakia. It's just funny that the word for evil in Greek kind of sounds like kaka. Kakos. It's a good sound for something bad. I always thought the K, like the F word has that K in it. You know. I always thought if you wanted to interject frustration when you hit your thumb with that hammer, any word that's rhymed with the F word would probably be as satisfying. Just, you know. But probably be very disturbing, honestly. If you start saying, like, puck, you know, like a hockey puck, people, they'd still know what you meant if you were like, oh, puck this and puck that. I don't think it wouldn't change anything. Because it's almost like you can't speak English properly. All right. I think we're fine to go back. So the word malice in English has a lot of connotation, doesn't it? You know, with malice of forethought. You know, when someone does something with malice, it means there's sort of evil intent. Well, kakos does indicate sort of badness. It's not like evil, it's like bad, wicked. So I would translate that probably wickedness. Filthy communication out of your mouth. Okay. Don't lie. You know, don't lie. Lie not one to another, seeing you've put off the old man with his deeds. This is all supposed to be gone, done and gone, over with. Don't lie. Now, I told you, lies are very important. You know, one of the things I am most pleased with is I love that. Well, you know, it's when I was younger, sometimes because I was, you know, newly married, I didn't know my wife very well, and because I loved her, I also feared her. And sometimes when you fear men more than God, you lie. You know? But it's nice to learn to trust people and to tell them the truth. You know, and it's not the same for everybody. Not everybody lies for the same reasons, you know. I mean, but for me, it was a trust issue. Like, I had to trust. And there's things that go back to my childhood of reasons why I wouldn't trust. It's nothing personal about her. But it felt so good to learn to be truthful. Because it's good to trust someone. Well, you know, you shouldn't trust yours, but it's like, you have to be able to trust the brethren enough to tell them the truth, you know. And also because it's right, of course. I put on the new man, which is, you know, we have the old man and the new man. There's the old man. We put him off with the affections and lust his deeds. There's the old man. The old life I used to live, that's gone. Now we have the new man, which is renewed in knowledge after the image of him that created him. It's renewed. So we're out of time. I think we'll just pick it up with verse 10. Well, let's just say 9. We've already kind of covered this a lot. You know, we've covered up through that, and we could literally just skip on to 12 tomorrow. But I think I'd like to address this somewhat. It's an important issue. So we'll start at verse 9 tomorrow. So thanks for joining this study. I look forward to being back again to continue our study in Colossians. Until then, Have a very blessed day.
Hear you now, O house of David. Is it small for you to